All right, so I'm just gonna make this. I was trying to get my microphone and stuff set up, but I just don't feel like looking for it. I just rearranged my studio, and I just don't feel like looking for the equipment right now. So yesterday, I saw a post on Facebook, and it had someone's name that I recognized, but it's a unique name, yet it was spelled incorrectly. So I kind of just wished it, just hoped it wasn't who I thought it was, and just kept going with my day. So when I did that, later on, I went to pick my child up from daycare, and his teacher, was like, "Have you heard about what happened?" Okay, so we live in I wouldn't say a small town, but we live in a city, fairly decent sized city, yet it's the type of city where I guess you could say a lot of people don't move out of. A lot of people stay here. It's close to large cities, Atlanta, Orlando. It's in the middle. Got Jacksonville hour away, or Tallahassee hour away. Jacksonville hour and a half. It's just one of those areas where it's cost of living is affordable, or cost of living is lower than the areas around it, yet you can get away if you want to, when you want to. So when I was picking my daughter up, she was like, "You heard?" And I was like, "Who?" And she said the name again, and I was like, "Okay." I'm wondering if it's who I think it is. And she's like, "Yeah, the guy that cuts hair." And I was like, "Dang." So yesterday, my barber of the past 2 or 3 years, apparently he made a choice to end his life yesterday. And it is something that a lot of people in the black community of the city are taking very hard. A barber is, one of those members of the community that is people can confide in. People can, they see them weekly. It's almost like therapy for the barber. I mean, it's almost like therapy for the clients. You know what I mean? Or the bi-weekly, you see them, you tell them about how things have been going. Most barbers give you some encouraging words. Since they talk to so many people, they kind of understand so many aspects of life, or they hear so many different stories that they can more than likely sift out the gems and pass them along to the next client, so on and so forth. You know, um, this particular barber was definitely a well known in the community. Um, well known. I think he was 30, and he is just the kids knew who he is, know him. The younger guys knew him. I say he's one of the more well known, and he was really, really, really good. He last cut my hair back in June when I took my family on a summer trip. He cut my hair before I went to New York back in February, and he took a trip shortly after that to Houston, something that we were talking about when I went and got my hair cut. And you know, he good guy, typical man, into sports, betting, you know, getting fly, dressing up, being on the scene, just loving his daughters. We both have daughters. That was one thing we always talked about. Um, just very shocked right now because, like I said, man, you look at him, talk to him. He's staying busy, making money. But you just never know what's going on in people's lives. What I mean? I don't know anything right now. I'm just as lost as majority of the people posting about it. What I mean? I'm sure people that were closest probably knew that he was dealing with situations or, just experiencing things and handling them, a certain way. So, it's not my place to speak on any of that. Just respectfully paying my condolences on this video. I just think back, I'm looking at my pictures, messages, and, you know, all that stuff. And, back in 2022, when I first started going to him, it was after the pandemic. The barber I had been going to prior to the pandemic was, their response to the lockdown and all that stuff that was going on in 2020 through 2022 while we were on lockdown. It kind of steered me away because, for one, I had moved away, so I had moved to another side of town, so I was a little closer to, so I was just further away. And then I think that there was like a majority of them had took the medication, and they were saying, hey, you got to be, you need to have taken the medication before you can come in here. And, they were just being really cautious. And, that wasn't my approach, although I did take it very serious, and I still do. But just, that just wasn't the approach I took. So I just didn't see the need to try to get back in there. I just felt that over time people would get back to normal. And anyway, so I would start going to him. And it was just like, I realized going to him, it was like, shoot, buddy brought my swag back. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like I was going to my barber for like 8 years, and then COVID happened, the lockdown happened, and then I went to the new barber, and it was just like, okay, I'm going to a younger barber. He's cutting me, the young style, the young whatever, hitting me with the white line if I wanted, got my beard looking all nice and stuff. And it was just like, yeah, I'm rocking with you. And, it took us some time to get, properly acquainted, because he told me at one point he used to think that I used to be trying him. And I was just like, no, bro. Please don't be offended by my personality, bro. Like, if I rock with you, I'm gonna be myself, and myself is just kind of saying whatever with no harm intended, no whatever, you know what I'm saying? Now, granted, one time I did call him, and I think I showed up early, and then it was like the second time, and then I think it was like a situation where I'm sitting there, and I thought I was next. And when he finished, I get up, and then he's like, oh, he next. Whatever. And it was just one little situation where I got a stank attitude about it. But, we quickly moved past that. And, when he told me he thought that I'd be trying him and just be saying off the wall stuff to him, I was just like, nah, bro. That's just my personality, man. Like, I really think you a good dude, I don't want you to take me that way, you know what I mean? Because I'm just a to myself type guy. So if I rock with you, I'm gonna be myself, and it may come off a little unexpected because I'm just so to myself. But if I observe and I, just peep you and, I feel it's cool, I'll open up, and especially if I'm coming to you like you're my barber and whatnot. So yeah, so like I said, man, it was just a good um a good time every time I went and got a cut. You know what I mean? Talk about sports, talk about relationships, talk about fatherhood, talk about music. You know what I mean? He always took care of me, as far as like, just making sure I was right, man. You just never know, man. You never know. And I was gonna write and put together a, just reflection. But this is it right here. Just this is it. No, that's the thing about life, man. This is it. So, I always, I'm a firm believer in it is what you make it, man. So, um, I just pray for his family, friends, especially his daughters, um, and their mothers, the daughters' mothers. You know what I mean? For my city, it's just, you know, it's just it's a rough time right now.